Welcome back, Raider Nation, to the Raider D podcast. Today we're going to be talking about why I think that the Raiders missed out in the first round. And also, we signed a guy with 3 last names and a glazed donut. All that and more on today's episode of the Raider D. All right, Raider Nation, let's get into this. And here's a little bit of controversy, and I've stirred it up because a lot of people are all in on Brock Bowers, as am I. I think Brock Bowers is going to be fantastic with the Raiders, and I think him and Michael Mayer is going to be a two-headed monster that is going to be difficult for any defense to really scheme against. However, I do got to say that I'm giving Tom Telesco a B- when it comes to round 1 of the 2024 NFL draft, only because I think that while many people in the comments are letting me know that it's called best player available, stupid, well, yes, except for the fact that Brock Bowers was not the best player available, at least not in my opinion. Now, hear me out. Brock Bowers is by far the best tight end in college football, and he's going to be an excellent tight end. He has all the intangibles. For a guy who stands at 6'3", 6'4", seeing different stats on his height, Brock Bowers runs a 4.5 40, which is pretty darn quick for a 245-pound guy. This is going to make him great over the middle of the field. Think George Kittle. Now, here's the problem, though. If we're going to say that Tom Telesco took the best player available, then the issue is that we are very thin in wide receiver. And Davante Adams is getting older. We got to be thinking about his replacement. And there was a guy who fell to us at pick number 13, who in my opinion is better than Brock Bowers and will have a better career than Brock Bowers. And his name is Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. This kid is a physical phenom. He stands at 6'4", 205 pounds, and runs a 4.33 40. He's also a former basketball player and is adept at going up and getting those contested catches. There's simply not a DB in college or in the NFL that can hang with a guy who's 6'4" and can run a 4.33 40. He simply will blaze by everybody. He will take the top off of defenses, and all you got to do is get the ball within 2 to 3 yards of him, and he will literally just jump up and take it from any DB who's trying to hang with him. And name any DB who's tall enough or fast enough to hang with a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. He averaged 17.3 yards per reception in 2023 and 17 touchdowns. 1 in every 4 catches this guy had was a touchdown. Talk about us having scoring problems. All you got to do is throw the ball to him 8 times in a game and you're getting 2 touchdowns at least. Now that gives you the rest of the team the ability to go out there and do their jobs. And this is why I think that the Raiders missed in round 1. If we're talking best player available, this kid would certainly end up being Davante Adams' replacement when his contract is fulfilled and he eventually retires. Everybody loves Trey Tucker. I love Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is amazing and fun to watch. As a rookie last year, he was able to take the top off some defenses. But wouldn't it be great if we had Trey Tucker standing at 6'4" to where you could throw him the ball and he would literally just climb up there and get it and you wouldn't even really have to worry about it? That's what you get in a Brian Thomas Jr. We missed on him. He ended up getting pulled to Jacksonville, and he's going to have a star-studded career down there. Does Brian Thomas Jr. have some holes in his game? Sure he does. One of the things that Brian Thomas Jr. needs to grow into as an NFL receiver is adding to his route tree and his route running. That is one of his weak points. But when you got a guy with the athletic ability of Calvin Ridley and can absolutely take the top off of defenses, teaching him how to run routes is one thing that good coaches can certainly do in the NFL. And we missed on him. And for that, I'm giving Tom Telesco a B- on round 1. I think as a consolation prize, you got one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and compare him with Michael Mayer, it's going to be a two-headed monster. We are going to dominate the middle of the field, and this is going to be great for Aiden O'Connell, who will be QB1 despite all of the Minshew Mania fans. Do not count on that. We did not go and draft quarterback. Michael Penix is not here. Bo Nix is not here. And JD5 is definitely not here. Any quarterback that we draft in today's draft in rounds 4 through 7, they are not going to end up becoming the starter. This is AOC's team, and we are building it around him. And we're building it around him by grabbing that extra tight end to give him easy passes to a big body down the middle of the field, which is a lot easier to do than throwing it sideline to sideline. This is also going to take some pressure off of Devontae Adams and maybe get him open more, because instead of being able to bracket him, they're going to have to look out for our new phenomenal tight end. So it's not a complete loss at all. I am all team Brock Bowers. I think that he is going to be the next George Kittle. I think that he is going to be phenomenal with the Raiders, and I think he's going to score a bunch of touchdowns in the red zone. I just think that long-term, better option would have been Brian Thomas Jr., but hey, Brock Bowers is a very, very close second consolation prize, so I'll take that all day long. We also are building around in the team. Clearly, we have gone offensive line in rounds 2 and 3 by drafting a guy with 3 last names. Let me tell you something about a guy who has 3 last names. Either they're a part of a biker club, they're an ex-felon, or they're one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. And I truly believe that Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be one of the best offensive guards in the NFL. Now, he played center the past couple of years out there at Oregon, but he's also played guard. He actually did that his first 2 years, and he also played defensive tackle because they were very thin at defensive tackle. So he had to do that as well, which I think helped to develop his mean streak when he is pancaking guys. This dude is absolutely tough, and he has a wrestling background, which really helps him in his stability, his hand fighting, and his all-around aggression as an offensive lineman. He is going to be fantastic with the Raiders. Expect him to be playing left guard. Dylan Parham will probably move back to his natural position at right guard. Obviously, Andre James is our center. But if Andre James were to go down, we now have a true center as a backup rather than trying to put guards and tackles in there and fill in the piece of a center. A center is a very difficult position on that offensive line to play, and so you really need somebody who has experience in it. And by having Jackson Powers Johnson, a guy with 3 last names, as your guy, he is versatile, and that's what he brings to the Raiders. Another thing that he also brings is the fact that he is a Raiders fan. His grandparents are Raiders fans, and he's actually played in the Allegiant Stadium with a game with the Ducks, and he went to Raiders games as a kid, going to see the Raiders in the Coliseum in Oakland. So absolutely fantastic pick that the Raiders went and got. Now, all of us were expecting the Raiders to grab Talisi Fuaga at pick number 13. That also did not happen. And so a lot of people were scratching their heads wondering, when are the Raiders going to address the offensive line? Well, we did that in round 2 at pick number 44 by grabbing the best center, and in my opinion, the best guard as well, in Jackson Powers Johnson. We also added in round 3 another offensive lineman. This guy is a true tackle. There have been a few reports about him maybe being better as a guard, but I think he's going to be just fine. And Tom Telesco said that DJ Glaze will absolutely be playing right tackle. This means that Thayer Munford may or may not be playing right tackle. We're not really sure who's going to end up being the starter there. I think what this means is Thayer Munford now has some competition as to whether or not he is going to be the right tackle by bringing in DJ Glaze, the Glazed Donut. I think he's going to be an absolute awesome player for the Raiders. He comes out of Maryland. The dude has been an absolute stud out there in the Big Ten. And so adding him to the offensive line really addresses the needs that the Raiders have. So in rounds 2 and 3, I'm giving Tom Telesco an A+. We got the best center out of college football and probably the best guard, as an addition to our offensive line who needed some help. Listen, I know that a lot of people out there say that the Raiders had a top 10 offensive line last year, but it is a deceptive stat. One of the reasons why we had top 10 is because the Raiders were in max protect, which means that we had tight ends and running backs staying in to help with the blocking. That is a very bad way to run your offensive line. If your front five cannot handle the blocking, you do not have a good offensive line, and this is why Jermaine Illuminor is no longer with the team. He was terrible at his job. He is now gone, and we are finding replacements for him. Expect that the Raiders will have a better offensive line. We won't have to stay in max protect as much this year as we had to last year. But even if we do, that 2 tight end set is really going to help because Michael Mayer is a really great blocker. He really started to come into his own at the end of the season before his injury. And then that allows you to take Brock Bowers and put him in the slot and use him as a slot wide receiver. Now, also you can move Jacoby Myers to the outside, which he's also very good at doing, even though his natural position is a little bit more geared towards the slot receiver. Either way, it's a great day for the Raiders. The Raiders have improved by adding Christian Wilkins on that defensive line. We have added a phenomenal tight end to our already great tight end core, and we have added the best center in college football to now come and play guard for us, as well as another quality right tackle in DJ Glaze. Let me know, Raider Nation, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade Tom Telesco's first 3 days of the 2024 NFL Draft and his first tenure as the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders?